Hi everyone, and welcome to your last two lessons on creative writing, following on from studying Lethal White and your fiction analysis extracts that are in your fiction booklet. So, in today's lesson, our main objective is going to be to complete your piece of creative writing based on either the image you can see behind me here or on your narrative about a supernatural event. Okay, so all of the work that you do today will be with the aim of completing that and being ready to mark it with your green pen to try and look for some improvements, adding your what went well, even better ifs, and self-reflecting on how to improve. So that's everything that we're doing today, and I'm rather sad because it is our last lesson on this. As I've suggested, then you are actually combining your last two lessons of the week into this one video, and this one video will guide you through your final stages of your writing and also how you can analyse it and self-reflect on your improvements at the end of that. Okay, so let's get going. Right, so a really logical place to start now would be to recap on the skills that I am looking for from your piece of writing. So you want to be trying to ensure that you are doing all of the things in my bullet point list here. I would suggest that you letter those. So I would use, A for methods, B here, C, D, E, F, and G. And I would tick off the ones that you know you are already including in your plan or your first draft of your piece of writing. Okay, any that you think actually I know that's something I need to work on, I'd make a list of those now so that you have that in the forefront of your mind before you start your writing work today. In today's lesson, there will be much less talk from me and much more time for you to just be developing your writing. You will need to spend at least 50 minutes on your creative writing today, but please do not go beyond an hour and 20 minutes, okay? That's way too much time. Yeah, all of our lesson material is designed and planned being really mindful of the fact that you guys are working remotely and you need time as downtime as well and time to look at your other subjects. So please don't go beyond about an hour and 20 minutes for your writing work today, but you should be spending at least 50 minutes of solid writing time. Okay, and that's because you are trying to really immerse yourself in the world that you're creating for your piece of descriptive or narrative writing in today's lesson. So have a look at the list and tick off the ones that you know that you're doing, letter them from A to, was it G? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, E, S. And then make a list of any of those that you think actually you're quite weak at that and you need to make sure that that's in the forefront of your mind when you're doing today's writing work. Go. Okay, so having thought about the skills that you're going to need to develop for your writing today, I've been sort of like racking my brain on how I can kind of teach you creative writing effectively when I'm not there in the room to do what we'd normally do and kind of share our ideas and offer each other advice. And so what I'm going to do is read a little bit of an extract from one of my all-time favourite books. It's The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And I'm going to read you a description of a character from that novel. And I want you to kind of take from this a model of how you can create like a really, really detailed focus on character. Don't forget, last lesson we looked at how you could structure your overall shape of your narrative. And one of the things that I was talking to you about was using your first main paragraph for a focus on a character. And we're using that acronym FACES to remind us about how we can structure a narrative or a description effectively. So, I'm going to read you an extract from The Great Gatsby now, and the extract is describing one of the main characters, and I want you to think about how it does it effectively, and to take any ideas that you can from that to help you with your description, either of this guy here, if you're doing your description, or of your main character if you are writing your story. Okay? So this is from Great Gatsby. There you go. Can you see it there? F. Scott Fitzgerald. And we're on page 49. He smiled understandingly, much more than understandingly. It was one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it that you may come across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced, or seemed to face, the whole eternal world for an instant, and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favour. It understood you just so far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself, and assured you that it had precisely the impression of you that, at your best, you hoped to convey. Precisely at that point it vanished, and I was looking at an elegant young roughneck, a year or two over 30, whose elaborate formality of speech just missed being absurd. Sometime before he introduced himself, I'd got a strong impression that he was picking his words with care. Okay, and I'm going to pause it there. Now, that's like a pretty short paragraph from this book. But I think what's really clever about it, what's really interesting, is that the writer builds up this really focused, detailed impression, not just of how Gatsby, this character, smiles, but also the effect that it has on those around him. I think it's brilliant, like pure genius writing. Like that phrase about it was one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it. I think is brilliant. Like to give a description of not just how somebody is smiling, as I say, but of the impression that that gives you, the feelings that it gives you in response. I think is a real marker of a talented writer. And you may be able to borrow a phrase from that or take some ideas from that forward into your own writing here. I certainly know, I think, characters in my life that I've come across who probably have that same gift. And I would hope that some of you would feel that you could kind of capture an essence of the person that you really know and embed that in your descriptive writing. And lots of writers will often advise you that, you know, you should write what you know, write from real life, write from real people that you've experienced and draw on that to add to the detail that you create in your descriptions and in your narrative. Okay. And other bits that I think are pure genius in here. I think that sense that his speech and the way that he sounds is almost absurd. That's the phrase it uses, almost absurd. If something is absurd, it is ridiculous. It's kind of laughable. And there's something in the way that this character speaks which is elaborate in its formality. So he speaks really properly. Perhaps we might describe that commonly as being a little bit posh. Perhaps he sounds a little bit as if he's trying to sound sophisticated, a little bit pretentious, showing off in his language use. But again, that kind of precision of detail about what this man might be like. We're learning about the personality of the character through minutiae, through real detailed descriptions of really specific elements of this character, from his smile to his voice, to the way he seems to understand those that he communicates with. And that is the job of a really gifted writer, is to make the character that they are producing seem real, seem believable, as if it's a real person that we're encountering. So I wanted to offer you that from my bookshelf behind as a bit of an example of what you're aiming for with your first paragraph of your character description work, okay? Likewise, if you've got some suggestions for me of really excellent character portraits from any books that you have read, maybe you could message me through our usual channels and let me know what those recommendations are, and I can then share them with everyone on the next video. Okay, guys, so it will be over to you now, and I'm going to put back that slide in a second, which outlines for you some of your key vocabulary and methods to try and embed. Your job now is going to be to take on board the work that you did in your last video tutorial, plus what we've discussed at the start of this tutorial, and to write your piece up. So this is your completed story or your completed description. You're following phases for your structure, your paragraphs, and you're embedding apes stomp those methods into your writing. Okay, and then I shall meet you in about 50 minutes once you've had a good write to do some self-assessment on what you've produced. Okay, guys, see you in a bit. Okay, so you will probably need to pause on this slide now to get some of your top tips for your vocabulary and for your key ingredients, your methods that I want you to try and embed in your work. Don't forget, when you think you're done, in the last 5 minutes, possibly 10 minutes, you need to go back over your work to check your accuracy of your spelling, your punctuation, your grammar. Don't just stop. Okay, when you think you're done with your piece of writing, don't just stop and give up and be like, yeah, okay, I can see words on the page, I'm done. You need to go back over and craft it. Check you've used the best words. Check you can add in another image to tick off from our ingredients here. And check your accuracy, okay? Anything that you add in green pen as usual. Pause your slide, get writing. Good luck, guys. Can't wait to read what you produce. Right, so hopefully this now finds you at the end of your creative writing, and we're now going to grab our green pens and talk through how you would self-assess your work. We are going to start by looking at your vocabulary that you've been developing. Okay, so the first task I want you to complete is taking your green pen. I'd like you to underline or tick any examples of really excellent, strong vocabulary that you feel that you have used in your writing. So that could be from our list here, that could be other words that you went away and found yourself. If you think you've done a pretty good job of including good range of vocabulary and that you're really trying to demonstrate that you've got a wide vocabulary, perhaps you went researched it and found good examples to embed in your writing, then one of the pieces of feedback you will need to write at the end of your piece of creative writing will be your what went well, and vocabulary might be something you want to add into there. So you might want to say, one of the things I think I'm really proud of with this piece is my range of sophisticated or advanced vocabulary. Okay, so do that task now and pause the video. Okay guys, so task number 2 for your self-assessment and reflection work is going to be to take a highlighter, preferably in green, but if you don't have one, any other colour will do as long as I can see it's your self-reflection work. And I want you to go through and highlight not just these ingredients, so not just these techniques I put in this list here, but also any other of the ape stomp methods that a writer can use to try and create strong imagery or to demonstrate their skill set. So I'm looking for things like alliteration, metaphor, personification, simile, and any of those methods that you feel that you have used. I would like you to highlight every example of what you have used, and in the margin write down what that method was, i.e., you know, she sells seashells would be highlighted up in green, and you'd write in the margin next to it alliteration. Okay, so you're going through and finding and identifying a range of the methods that you have used. You do not need to do that for every single instance of, for example, alliteration or metaphor. What you do need to do is show me the range of those methods that you use. So you're looking for one good example for each of those techniques if you can. Okay, so pause the video, get going with that task now. Right guys, so at this point you have pretty much proven that you are using a good range of vocabulary and a good range of your methods from the middle column there. Okay, and again, if you've used quite a broad variety of those techniques, for example, if you've used virtually all of these in the list here, then you will be adding to your what went well at the end of your piece and saying, I've used a really good range of methods and techniques in my writing. For example, I used metaphor and I used a sentence that starts with a verb as an example of what you could say. And don't forget you can mention other methods as well from Ape Stomp. They don't just have to be the ones on the screen here. Okay, now that's really excellent if that is you. Pause the video, add that to your what went well. We're now going to talk a little bit more about the overall kind of structure and effect of your piece of creative writing. Now, obviously, this is really hard to do abstractly for me because I don't have your writing in front of me to give you more detailed feedback, and perhaps that's a video that I can post separately, would be like whole class feedback once I've got your writing in. But at this stage, my advice would be to think about whether or not you followed faces as a structure to your writing. If you struggle with really specific parts of that, like getting a really effective symbolic ending, for instance, then maybe that's something that you would set for yourself as your even better if. Like, even better if I worked on my symbolic endings, my story, or I developed a particular example of one of the methods from Ape Stomp. Like, I might say that I need to develop more pathetic fallacy in my work, and not just use the weather to foreshadow an event, but actually to develop pathetic fallacy through describing nature in a way that builds up the emotional insight into what's happening in my scene. So you're attempting to look at your work now, think about the structure, faces. Did you follow it? Did you not? If you didn't follow it, for your even better, if you want to add, I need to use the faces structure that Miss has taught me to help me to structure my writing effectively. Perhaps I need to work on my symbolic ending. Perhaps I need to embed a greater range of those techniques. Okay, guys, get that done. And then give yourself some honest feedback. What do you think you could have worked on more? What do you think you've done really well at? Try and be fair with yourself. You know, it's really hard when you read back over your own work. Famous writers often draft, redraft a million times until, not literally, it's an exaggeration, until they get to a point where they feel content and happy with the craftsmanship of what they've produced. So, for example, one of the texts that you will look at when you get up into the upper years of the school is Jekyll and Hyde. And Jekyll and Hyde, in the version that we have it now, is not the original text. That is a second, if not third, attempt at the story. And that's because the first attempt, his wife was shown and she had real criticisms of it. So he destroyed his first draft and went and reworked the piece entirely. So I hope you will not completely rip up and destroy your first draft of your piece of creative writing. But what I want you to see is that getting to a piece that you feel happy with is a much bigger process than we have time to do with your creative writing here. If you're not satisfied, that's okay. That can actually be a sign that you're actually quite a talented writer. Sorry, I just needed to pause the video there while I just had a coughing fit. I'm fine. And I'm back with you now. So my point is that creative writing, it is a process. We're not always satisfied with what we produce first time, but you will develop and you will get better at embedding this range of techniques and skills the more that we practice. I hope you've enjoyed the experience of doing your creative writing in these few lessons. I would really, really love to read what you've produced. It will cheer me up. So please send me some of your work. And I look forward to seeing you all again for a new unit soon. Take care of yourselves, guys, and finish your feedback, and then go read something for your own pleasure. All right, guys, see you soon. Bye.